So, I watched The Realist Hero rebuilds a kingdom. It's always a whole ass sentence. But, ladies and gentlemen, this show we already talked about. I have to talk to you about it more. It's that good. It is one of the best comfort shows, and it's not even close. And I feel even bad saying it's a comfort show, but this is the kind of show that I feel like you or myself could watch yearly and be like happy about it, like really happy about it. I don't know why that is though. We're gonna try to discover and dismantle it today. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't bring you the Siren's Call of essentially a season 3/2, because the first season was 24 episodes, or really 2 episodes with one season with 2 halves. Fucking Christ! But as soon as it finished making the rest, I felt myself wanting to go back to it. As soon as the part 1 was done, part 2 was slowly trickling out, and then as soon as it was finished, I got in quick because I remember the show just being so. It's like lovely and like fun and like it's also like pretty damn stimulating though. It's not like something that's just this kind of fluff show, but also it doesn't do things that other shows that are otherwise kind of intense take from you. You know, like when you're watching like Tokyo Ghoul or something like that, or Overlord to some extent. There's a lot of like weird plot things happening, people be dying, some horrible atrocity be taking place, so you're kind of getting like emotionally battered around on occasion. When in this show, it does stuff that I didn't know it could be done well. Like talking about philosophy and actually talking about the nature of human beings and like the softness. And it's funny because it's titled as like a comedy. That's one of the like tags of it. I don't know. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun. I'm not sure if it's like, haha, this is so funny. I think it's like just a testament to a really, really interesting show. And frankly, has ignited me to find out like a new thing I deeply love about shows. Like I like zero to hero shows. I like anime with really cool ideas. I meant anime. I like anime with really cool ideas. There's a gnat. Did I get you? I did. What are you, dude? You're like fucking got wiry arms. Ugh. But this show makes a really good test case for like psychology or like philosophy. Sorry, not psychology, philosophy. But actually doing a good job about like explaining the principle of logic or the principle of human behavior found within some philosophy, and then giving it reason, merit, and weight for the place that it kind of was forged, I guess. By the by, I always like to do this beforehand. Wait a little bit too long, but for those of you guys who want to be part of the conversation, essentially this is a show called The Realist Hero. Baseline premise is that this guy gets isekai'd into a new world, doesn't get hit by, bus, whatever, okay? But unlike other isekais, he's not overpowered or anything like that. He's just a really clever strategist. In fact, the prophecy in this world is the hero will bring forth kind of a new age of great innovation and like just a new age, basically. And the idea is that this guy is incredibly clever, incredibly well-read, and just fucking nails it. Nails all of it. He also takes all of the like human conquest that we kind of aged out of and uses that as like a leverage point in this fantasy realm to be like, okay, this is why you do this. This is why this had relevance. This is what we should do to cultivate. It's basically like Civ. It's basically like Civilization on crack, perfectly executed, perfectly filtered, because Civilization as like a TV series sounds really boring, but they found a way to give it enough context, enough lenses to where they skip the boring shit and they just give you like basically. That's what it is. So I messed up when I said that before. We're all over the place. I messed up saying that before. My new favorite thing that this show shows me is not philosophy, although I love that. It's problem solving. That's the one thing that I found a new love in this show that I hope other shows do, and other anime or other TV shows. I feel like other TV shows always have this like strife and like this super weight to decisions, where this show just does a really good job about here's a problem that will exist and permeate within a system, within a culture, within a people, without a human being, whatever. Here's the solution that makes rational sense. Here's why we're doing it in the way we're doing it. Here's the logic behind why we're doing it. Here's the emotional aspect of it. And it all works. But there's also pivots and like fuck ups. So we're going to mend those as well. And it's just like this great feeling of satisfaction of here's a problem that a lot of people are like, how the hell do we solve it? We're fucked. But in reality, especially in the past, we found pretty good answers to those problems. Like cultivation, you know, understanding the fact that bacteria is everywhere, so we need to seal up everything. Or not seal up everything, but clean everything in a certain way. And those can contribute to disease and all of these things. So if you just make a good dent in like the waste disposal bracket of our community or infrastructure, you do a huge number to reduce mortality. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the baseline. And this hero comes into this world and just starts fixing shit. Now, again, it sounds like a premise that is like kind of neat, you know, but it's so well done. Like it's a premise that is neat, executed perfectly, which is usually the opposite of things that happens with an anime. Usually it's a cool idea, but holy shit, do they fucking waste it. Like they're like, hey, we did it a little bit and now it's gone forever. And we're going to talk about other things that are far less interesting because that was kind of hard to pull off. So we're just going to do this. But now it's significantly bad because you started here and now we're here. It's horrible. This show starts the premise where like, okay, this is kind of cool to, I fucking love this dude. I could binge this show 100-fold over and over and over again yearly, baby. It is that good. Now, unlike the previous series that we used to do, we usually talk about like who have you trying to sell this to you. We already have a new thing made on our channel called Should You Watch, which is just like a 3-minute, 4-minute quick sell of what the show is, just in case people are curious about what the show is, with minimal spoilers and kind of good context to see what where the show's animation and art style goes. That's where that is. So now I can just talk to you guys about it. So I just finished season 2. Also, I'm sorry I'm like super high energy here. It's just because I just finished watching the show, and like at the halfway point of part 2, I just dawned on me how good this show is. And a lot of people were rating season 1 higher than season 2. And I just like that, man. As much as I do like the conflict and like the war story, I've seen it to death, man. I've seen the whole like, hey, guess what? It's a war. They even we have to do like Code Geass, you know what I mean? Like big brain. All right, position your enemies here, dominate your enemies there, and we've done it and we've succeeded. It's awesome. But I've seen it a good bit. Season 2 does shit that I've seen nobody do, and it's just fucking nice. It's just like the coziest, warmest blanket ever, dude. I also feel like this show got like a 7. I feel like this show is so goddamn unique in its delivery of something that no other show has given me this level of like comfort, fun, peace, harmony, interest, because it talks about actual ideas to problems that we've solved really, really well, and it's kind of satisfying the resolution that these people come to, and the way you're like checking things off the list, and each way is like ushering in, and except like, you know, innovation takes years and years to happen. So the fact that they found a way to be like, what if we had a person that could like hyper stack these years of innovation, kind of similar to Dr. Stone, I guess, but with less, very less. And with maybe like a weird ramping up. But this show just takes built-in infrastructure and starts delivering like built-in structure that feeds the system, that therefore makes you like go 10x its speed, like evolve way faster than you normally maybe should. I just finished watching season 2. I think it's better than season 1, although I think season 1 is very, very charming, but season 2, I think it just does so many more things, but it doesn't have this happen. It doesn't have this like boom and then down. Which I feel like people are like, they like a lot. For me, I don't mind. I just like seeing cool, interesting ideas and things that make me question things and have a greater understanding of that. That's my like, ooh, kind of meta or kind of feel. But this show has a lot of like warm, kind of rocky harmony kind of feel, like this sway back and forth between this and this and this and this, which I find way more enjoyable. But yeah, season 2. Essentially, the conflict is kind of subsided. The guy is now like pretty in the swing of things of being a king, and that's what we're seeing. And that's why I'm so excited to see Overlord season 2, by the way, or season 3 or whatever it is, because you can see Ainz be the actual like king of many places, and I'm really interested to see how he's gonna handle the politic stuff. Probably more grim than this show, but this show does the politics and like the interesting psychology of how to like harmonize a community, how to solve like questions that we see plenty in our day and age, like refugees, food shortages, infrastructure with business, how to dismantle a potential toxic thing that your community has come to depend and understand. For instance, in the horrible example in the show is or like a horrible thing in the show is that slavery is unfortunately permeated within this kingdom, and the king has to come up with a way of being like, well, fuck, how do we solve this without like there being a huge uproar? And he comes to the conclusion of, well, what if we made slaves, basically work for the state, and we'll basically teach them and use them as a workforce, but instead of like, monopolizing them and working them to death, we'll teach them, make them really valuable, so that eventually they just grow out of slavery anyway, because they're such a demand resource. And then they just can slowly dismantle that as they prove themselves to be like 20 times more than what the people would determine is just labor, That's one of the things people kind of talk about slavery a little bit when it comes to the evolutionary point of like machinery, essentially. Like the technological boom that happened back in the day with cotton machines and whatnot was a huge contributing force of why like people didn't even need like manual labor anymore in this way. And this is why it was like, if you would have done it beforehand, when people had this vested interest to need this kind of fucked up human monstrosity kind of action, then it would have not worked out at all, and you probably would have had a lot of resistance. Whereas if you waited until there's a time when people are like, yeah, there's better ways to achieve our ends, then that's where you can finally let stuff happen, which is both incredibly like disturbing and wrong, but it's just the seemingly the thing that comes of history, which is very dark. I'm not claiming that's the right thing to do. I'm just claiming that yeah, like it's such a human reality of a thing of like, well, wait, you can't just replace something and just say this isn't happening anymore because there's consequences to that. How can we make a system where you don't even notice the change is happening, but still net good can happen? But that's the whole premise of the show, because it's like a realist perspective of the kingdom, which, by the way, I didn't really mention that in the cell of the show, sorry. But like that's the whole premise, is that there's this guy who is not just like clever and etc., but he's a realist, quote unquote, which a realist supposedly, from my understanding of the show, is someone who looks at the reality of the world and doesn't live in this false idealization of what things ought to be. Instead, understands what he wishes the world to be, but understands the reality of the world. Therefore, in order to make what he wants come into existence, he needs to use what is real and what the functional human nature of people is, which is like awesome, like just really clever, and it makes you constantly think about like, oh, I guess that is fair. And it makes you, like, to me, and this maybe is cringe to some people, which I agree with, it's a little bit cringe, almost as cringe as me, being invisible right now. It's both cringe. I actually really like this idea, this sentiment, this idea about being a realist, and the show does a great job about saying that, because I have always heard people say, like, kind of the same idea as honesty. Like, I really value the idea of honesty, but there's clearly a point where honesty means nothing. Like a great example that's always given is Nazi-occupied Germany. If a Nazi person came to your house and you were hiding Jews, if someone said, "Hey, are you doing that, hiding Jews?" And you said, "Yes, because I'm honest. They're in the thing," you would get shot. They would get shot. You'd be dead. Like, it's stupid. You lie your ass off. You want these people to live. You do net good. You fucking lie. But where people get corroded is when everything becomes a lie, and etc. I think your often best bet is to tell the truth and to try to harmonize yourself with the world in which you can hold the truth, which means basically tell the truth without being an asshole, which is quite hard. It's a hard thing to live virtuously by your own ideals, by your own merit, but also be honest. And I think this is the same thing with the realist hero. Is the idea like being a realist isn't just something that's so cut and dry. The world is suffering, people are cruel, it's sometimes people can be nice, like you're just being a cynic, you know what I mean? Like there's something, I think that's the harmony, is like you want to be someone who can look at the cynicism of the world, the cruelty of man, the atrocities of the past, and the limitations of actions given your circumstance and given your tool set. And then being able to look at cynicism, but then to be still hopeful, to still be hopeful about the world and what you can do. Like maybe you can't make the perfect world, but maybe you could make it a little bit better so that the next person that takes the mantle can make it a little bit better too, and then a little bit better, and then a little bit better, and then a little bit better, and then maybe someone fucking pulls us back 6 fucking feet. But then another person comes around, makes it a little bit better based on the tool set he's able to utilize. A little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, and then eventually we have a good world again. And then maybe yo-yos constantly, who knows? But that's to me just like a wondrous sense, and the idea of, yeah, like you gotta look at the horribleness of the world. You gotta look at the pain and the frustration in your actions and do the best that you can. because if you try to do the best that you can, then you're just gonna be eaten up, or you're gonna be manipulated, or you're not gonna be able to do any good. It's like the classic example of when you're in an airplane and you're maybe a parent. Are you supposed to put your seatbelt on first or the kids? And most parents are like, oh, I'll put the seatbelt on my kid. Like, your kid's fucked essentially if you get flung out of there. Also, you're much more better to quickly put your seatbelt on and then get theirs on. It's the same idea with heroism that I always thought was frustrating. Was you'll die, you'll die. The same thing with people who like the idea of My Hero Academia kind of plays with this, but never really hits it, which is what I want. But never talks about the idea. Well, maybe it does. Never talks about the idea of you being limited based on your understanding, knowledge, and etc. Like, you may want to run into a building that's on fire, but the net result, the honest result, is that you're gonna run into that fiery building. You have no training on how to handle smoke and being blind and how to move through flames. You don't have any sort of protective gear. What's gonna happen is you're gonna fucking pass out because you're sucking in carbon dioxide. You're gonna knock yourself out. And now a real hero that's trained to actually do this heroic thing, that would just pull people from fire, put down flames. Now he's gonna have to carry not one person out, but two people out, because your dumbass was an idiot and thinking, yeah, fuck it, I'm this. No, the reality of the world is you need to work really hard to be able to save people. You can't just be like, done. I just need to run in there. And yeah, there are moments when you can maybe push someone out of the car, but if you die in the process, then who's to say that you couldn't have become a nurse or become like a teacher and made significantly more kind ground, and would have been able to live in this world for longer, being safe, being taken care of, and also providing good to overall humans. Anyway, so that to me, that's kind of this constant yo-yo, and the reason why I bring that up is because I think so many shows do that, of like the hero is almost like he's so good that he is in fact stupid and dead, because it's like, unless you had plot armor, this is not how heroes are heroes. Like, you don't just get to say, I'm gonna save the day and then run in there. It's like, no, that's the not very sexy, not very interesting story is that I want to do good in the world. How will I do that? I need to understand this skill set. You develop that skill set for many years, whether that's healing, whether that's fitness, whether that's communication or information transition, maybe that's entertainment, maybe that's just raising a child, whatever. But it's a long fucking process of like just forging yourself to be able to do this one particular task. That's also another thing the show does greatly, is it shows that in order for, like, people have an innate talent and an innate interest in various things, and those interests and talent, when coming together, create like an unstoppable person at their skill level within whatever they're interested in. Whether that's warrior, swordsmanship, whether that's music, whether that's, just general political kind of nobility stuff, or whether that's like food, whether that's strategy and knowledge. Like, all these people have their proclivities, and it's so wonderful, because this is like the idea, and this is something that the show does really, really well. And I think, and it's fucked up for me to say this, but I think the show, and we will talk about season 2, I'm just kind of on a weird tangent right now, but I think that's something that the show does really well, is it kind of shows like one of the strongest forms of leadership. And people, I've heard this before in like various weird ways, but people say, unfortunately, like a really good, like you can get a lot done, is a like kind of a king idea, like the idea of like it sounds horrible, but a dictator. But the problem with that is that it can get corrosive, corruptive, and horrible. And usually if there's other like things that are above the president or the king, like a nobility that has a ton of power, ton of money, then that can corrode the choices of this person because of monetary gain, because of deals and all of these things. In the show, they do a great job about like, well, isn't like a great, and this is something it's funny because our storytelling within our history and with our mythos kind of articulate this, but a great idea of what an amazing leader would be someone who is like tempered, rational, and good-hearted, but also realistic, like honest about the reality of the world, but also has dissolves the ego to not know that he's not an expert in everything, so to harbor a bunch of things. King Arthur and the Knights Round Table is the mythos I'm talking about, which again some would say is good, bad. I'm sure based on the time period it had various things that were good and bad. Women were allowed in the army or some crazy shit, who knows. The point is that, again, this like uniform idea of there being this person who can make choices and genuinely make huge changes, because this is something they point out in season 1, which is why didn't the hero come into this world and like immediately make a democracy? And he's like, because in times of war, any sort of hesitation and like you have to get a bill passed just won't fly. You'll die. Everything will war will break out, and but when you're deciding on whatever you should do, you're just going to get steamrolled and dead, opposed to a person who is a king who can just make an immediate choice to say, move on this place, conquer it, kill everything, take everything, and now we have that. So in times of war, it just doesn't make sense. And it's funny because it kind of makes me think of this idea of like overlord, of like if you could have a what do you call it, a democracy where like it's self-imposing, especially when things have stabilized and you're all kind of slowly progressing forward. It's still, there's these moments where you should like have someone who's like the main person who can like say, okay, in these times of crisis, I'll be put in charge to like make huge plays to have to reshape everything. And there's a question of, well, when should that power come into being and like make changes? Is it only in times of war? Or is it every like 50 years or 100 years that we need to make a huge shift in our idea because the other systems are too slow? And maybe you can only pick like 3 things that are the things that this person focuses on. I'm getting crazy. Let's calm down. let's calm down, me. All right, Jesus Christ. Anywho, so I just want to like the tangent of all tangents, but this show, it does that to you, man. It's just such a stimulating, fun show. I can't describe it enough. Where it's like, and maybe it's just the fact that it's like problem solving and it's just super satisfying. Or like a person being like, here's what we'll do, and like actually comes up with like and it's funny because there's so much stuff about politics and all these things are complicated, and maybe to some extent it should be because they're trying to, I would say, devalue like corruption, like ways that this could be leveraged in a negative way that isn't its intent. But also I feel like that's corrupt. That's also political, shit moving through Congress and such. It's like I feel like that's like this. It seems like there's a clear gap in here where this could be misunderstood, and the one side is trying to get that through, and the other side trying to get that. It's weird. Anyways, but the again, the problem solving is just incredibly charming. In season 2, though, let's talk about this as a whole. Sorry, I kind of went on my own little thing there. But one of the things that they talk about in season 2 is after he like settles the kingdom, like the aftermath of season 1, the goddess kingdom, the one that's like the main big dog, basically comes to the realist hero's just conquered city, and it's basically like, you're great, but yeah, you need to get out because there's political like treaties and shit, sorry. And he's kind of like, totally cool, I'm gonna fuck this whole place up in a really specific way. Man, like, see, that's the thing I don't think this show's gonna get enough credit for, and it makes me sad, because that moment was so sick, where like the guy is sitting there like, we're gonna build bridges, we're gonna put our names on them, we're gonna basically give them a bunch of freedom, we're also gonna give them a bunch of food, we're also gonna give them like future protection, basically making it so that they feel like they have I don't mean future protection, sorry, I meant like a feeling comfort in knowing that there will be a future for them, by showing them these broadcasts, by telling them that it's gonna be okay, we're gonna honor your ability to choose whatever you want to sing, etc. We're gonna show you how you're gonna get food. We're gonna build a future for you that you can bet on and feel comfortable in that. And all of his choices were like, he's a good guy, but at the same time in the back, I think he was also like, and also knowing his strategist, I think this was all part of their plan, because even when the plan happened, when like the thing happened where basically he does all these things, you're like, oh, these are all good choices, but sure, putting names on bridges, okay. But then they go through the peace treaty talks. The one usurped younger son to the king who died, etc. He gets his kingdom back, and all the people are sad. Which to me, I was like, that's so cool. It's such a cool thing where all the people were like, well, wait, like actually it was I no, like run it back. I actually would prefer you, and it was just such a moment where like, yeah, baby, because he won over the people, and that's such a thing where like, again. Like, to me, I think so many people, including myself, I'm so jaded and like distraught by politics, by anything in that realm, that I feel like it's so easily to be corrupted and like subject to influence, that to me, I think like, yeah, if somebody like predisposed their will and usurped a kingdom or a throne or country, the the people in that place would just be like, you suck, we hate you, resist, resist, resist. But if the person is giving you net more than you always had, and also gives you a future where, like, if you were starving, this is clearly like a better future. Yeah, if the other people who were doing a really shitty job at leading you came into power, and then things immediately got terrible, you'd be like, fuck that! Come conquer us again! It's bullshit. I actually was really liking having freedom and having food and having yeah, and man. Sorry, I'm doing a horrible job of explaining it, but just the idea that eventually things pivot over again, and the people rise up and like resist, but simultaneously also is very much influenced by the sister, essentially the younger sister, who was, I think, going to get assassinated by the brother if she was ever out of hiding, which is just like a horrible family type deal. And yeah, I don't know, just to me it was really cool to like see like just the cleverness of the show, because Soma, the main dude, the hero king, he basically, it seemed like he planned it. He was like, no, we're gonna do all of these things, yes, because it's something that's kind of nice. Like, yeah, freedom for people who were suppressed, they'll love that. But then he started doing more things where you're like, oh, you're like making yourself really hard, like you knew exactly what the one son of the king would do when he was in power, which is like just be military, crush everyone's will. So he made sure to build him pillars that the people would love, so that when he came to crack them down, everybody would resist and immediately jump on. And in fact, the kingdom would be given, literally given back to him. It's just like, but it's so cool because it's something with an idea that I recently talked to you guys about within like a podcast or one of our like, whatever, it's like a book review essentially. But it's the idea of, in order to come up with a really good idea / a really good course of action, you should basically create a zombie idea to create a zombie course of action. So you take whatever idea, whatever course of action you want to do, you find all the ways you can succeed, and then you also find all the ways you could fail. And how you do that is by finding all the variables that can interact with your idea / whatever plan, and then you basically try to limit all of the plans that have so many dead ends. So if you have like 500 roads, you slowly start checking off the list of all the roads that have way too many potholes, breaking points, all of these things, until you're left with a plan that you can account for a lot of the positives, you can fix and reinforce for the negative, and you have a higher probability of success. And that's very much like the realistic perspective of it, because you're both trying to be hopeful for the future by finding the ways you can succeed, but also by being honest about the variables in which you could absolutely be devastated by, fortifying yourself and resisting and dodging those outcomes so that this one can succeed. And it's, to me, basically the same idea of the show, which may be why I liked it so much, is because it kind of just it sunk up really well with me. I will say the only thing that there were parts of the season where I was kind of like, okay, sure. And maybe it is because it goes like really interesting, really big brain, really cool concepts, talking about like philosophers and their like grand ideas, and then harem shit. And you're kind of like, okay, alright, he's got hella bitches. But also in some ways, it makes sense because of the fact that it is realistic perspective. Like, if this is something that is used as a political leverage point within the system, sure, this kind of makes sense that someone would utilize this for their own gain. But it is kind of like, it's pretty smooth sailing. Like, and also I don't dislike the non-conflict. Like I talk about this on end, but the more I see more shows, the more I start to notice the like constant similar conflict point that every show has, which is like, if this is a harem or a love story, there's constant jealousy, and we're constantly kind of fed that like, or that like, don't say that, the kind of feeling of like doubt and frustration with like storytelling. They'll show you the mind of the heroine, the main girl, and she's perceiving things not as the main guy's intending, or the main guy's just being thoughtless, and we're just sitting in this uncomfortable kind of stewing, horrible feeling. And that's just conflict. It's this point of conflict that some people feel like it pulls you in and it gets you hooked, but when you've seen it forever, you just start to feel like it's innately manipulative within storytelling, I find. So that's why I way more enjoy this show. And maybe it's a show that's made for people who have seen a lot of the isekai stuff, a lot of the like conflict shows, a lot of these ideas, but instead this show to me, and I don't mean to use this word lightly because it's a word that I cherish greatly, as much as it's weird to say that, but this show to me I think achieves better than any show I've ever seen this feeling of harmony, this feeling of absolute peace, this feeling of cohesive, relaxed, adjusted, it's so hard to describe because this show to me really nails it. In a really spectacular way. And the whole show I can't describe it besides that feeling of all of the courses of action you feel harmonious with the actions around it. And you feel maybe a little bit interested, but then it brings you back to like, no, this is not that kind of story. This is the story that you're just going to sit back, take it in, relax, something warm and interesting and serene about it. Feeling of harmony within it. Rather than this feeling of like disorder, conflict, frustration, to some extent, annoyance and agony from the feeling of like choices. Like again, when you see like a lot of the times within romance shows, I feel like there is this like agonizing feeling of like the dude putting his foot in his mouth and saying the worst thing to this person, despite him not knowing that that's the worst thing to say. And it's like this feeling of like, he doesn't know, but she does, and she's hurt, and he's and you're just fucking breaking. No good. And again, the characters they introduce throughout the show, like the scientist and like his understanding of the idea that they basically found like a stupid high technology, and instead of like immediately bringing that to the forefront, realizing the potency of coming up with like a world power technology too soon would make them an enemy or make enemies, would make so much bad shit. So he says, we're going to sit on this and we're going to slowly trickle it out. It's just so many things, which is like so many leaders would just not do. They would not have such a tempered, harmonious feeling of pursuing these threads or being honest with the outcomes that are before them. So I love that. Also, they introduced like a cute little like a scientist person, and there's so many characters that are introducing really, really well. Oh, also I didn't really mention it. The harem thing is a little odd, but it's also kind of fun because it breaks the norm of things a little bit. I will say, to me, I don't know. I guess it does do a little bit. It changes things up a little bit. But I will say I would have been fine also with the story that was just. Yeah, it was just neutral. Like, it didn't have this. If early on he was like, no, blonde girl with short hair, you're my person. No. I would have been fine with that too. And just like lovey-dovey stuff there. That makes sense. But also, with the fact that this is like a realistic perspective of this, sure. I will say, and no, there's moments where they do a little bit of conflict where she's like, I'm not really happy about it. And I'm like, yeah, but also I guess if you grew up in that world, I don't know. I still think it's a little odd. It's a little odd, especially with how like cool everybody is. Everyone's just like, yeah, I get Tuesdays. It's like, what? Okay, I guess. Second to last thing I would like to say is the ending. The ending of season 2 or season 1 part 2, the 24th or 25th episode. It's interesting because they kind of talk about this idea, and I was worried that they were going to do that conflict thing. I was really worried they were going to be like, shit, this is a point of conflict where basically they talk about how the king already appointed Soma at some point as like prime minister. That's what he was. He's the prime minister of the kingdom, but never gave him the throne, never gave him all of these things, never gave him the power, and eventually limited all of his ideas and abilities. And of course people are like, wait, what? Like when you're hearing the story from the king, you're like, this never happened. And then you realize that, and of course you piece this together as soon as she starts telling the story, but this is the mom's special power. She can basically send memories back to a previous self. But it was really interesting, the idea that Soma was basically, and it makes sense. Like Soma was very limited. Like he was only given like the, what do you call it? A point of power, but not the point of power. And also like why the king would do that. Like it is funny because the show actually does a really good job about like fighting against the idea of like plot armor. Like Soma has poltergeist and he is not the strongest at all. In fact, it's this elf that has had like hundreds of years to train. So yeah, he's not the smartest about this or that. He's a strategist, and even then he's kind of surpassed by another person. But with his knowledge of his world and his history, essentially knowing the pitfalls of his ancestors and etc. But I was really worried a point of contention was going to be Soma having a lot of doubt now, because Soma seemed like he was just starting to like take on the mantle of like, I'm the king, I'm going to start making choices, because apparently he was holding back for a lot of his thing, which makes sense. He's not trying to to like say like, I'm going to make a choice that's going to make people either hate me or love me, but it's for the better of the kingdom, so eat me. I'm the king, you can't take this away from me, fuck you. And then makes the choice. So he wasn't doing stuff like that, where apparently he still hasn't really done that. He still hasn't really done that. But I was really worried they were going to introduce like a point of contention within the story of like him being like, oh, a lot of what happened and worked out was made by you. Oh, kind of like, shit, I guess I'm not that great. Like I was really building up my courage here with me killing it, and now I feel like I'm 10 steps back. 10 steps back. Oh, and then the last thing I want to talk about is, to me, probably my favorite part of the whole show. Maybe even like, this is a really cool concept that I don't want to make this video too long. I think I might have with this. My favorite thing in the whole show, it doesn't even come close, although I do love it, is the section where he talks about something that I've heard to death. I talked about how I've watched shows a lot and eventually hear a lot of the same conflict points and etc. One of the things you hear constantly within anything that has to do with like kingdoms, political strife within a story, it's always the quote, which is it better to be feared than loved? And this is, of course, an idea that comes from philosophers long since past, based in their time period of kings and constantly backstabbing and politics and usurping things and all these things. But I've heard that saying to death, and I've always heard it kind of said in a weird way, and I'm like, oh, okay, I mean, I get where it's coming from, but it does seem like it's missing pieces. Like, it feels like it's like, I get it, but it doesn't seem like it's the full spectrum. And the show, and it may sound cringy, but I actually really want to go and read that book now, because to me, I never heard that. I've never heard somebody do what I think is the best part about philosophy, which is talk about philosophers' ideas, storytelling, ideas of the world, and then take a step back and actually be like, well, what are they trying to say? Because a lot of times, in order to like articulate a feeling or an understanding, you can't just say like A equals B, or 2 + 2 is 4. You can't do that. It's devoid of meaning and emotion, which is what human beings are governed by oftentimes. So the way you can tell a story, the way you can execute these feelings and etc. Usually it's done by telling 1,000 stories, and you kind of all come to the same conclusion where you're like, oh, I guess that does make sense. I guess I feel that on an emotional level and also on a mechanical level. And they talked about this classic story that I've heard to death, but it's this book I want to read. I can't remember it because I'm terrible with names. But this again, fucking the Greeks or whatever. It just seemed like they're correct. I think it's the Greeks. But anyways, they talk about this idea within this main conflict point. And it's funny because Soma is a very analytical, but no doubt about it, a good person. Like a kind, considerate, understanding person, it seems. So the fact that he has to make this choice, and he kind of is delved into this like horrible point of these horribly corrupt nobles, and this is something where the show could have taken a step back, and this is to me like really interesting conflict with a very harmonious ending. But that quote, it is better to be, or not, it's better, is it better to be feared or to be loved as a king? And of course this part of the season talks about how people always assume that this means, a king must be ruthless. A king must be, undoubtedly able to do horrible acts. And in fact, in times of war, nobody will remember the horrible acts that the king had to do, because at the end of the day, it's just about the prosperity of the people in the moment that were able to get there because of the horrible acts. Everything will be justified. Everything will be washed away, usually. And people will oftentimes just feign ignorance because, let's not focus on the past, how we got here. The importance is that we're doing good right now, and let's try to keep that boat going. So there's this argument for like cruelty is a necessity in leadership and in rules, or in rule. But the show does a great job about talking about, wait, the person who wrote this philosophy, a beautiful book, also, people are excluding the previous thing, which is basically the previous chapter of this philosopher's kind of, writings about how people, you should be cruel, was about how cruelty actually has very big pitfalls and cruelty can be very bad. Or at least that was this person's perspective of what the philosopher was saying. The idea of, if you're always looking at the person who's going to backstab you, and you're always cruel, and you're overly cruel, and you're overly correct, then people will just not trust you. Say if you had like a prime minister that maybe made a somewhat bad deal, if you just beheaded him and like his family, then that's really bad, especially if you knew the prime minister for like 10 years. And people are like, I've known him for 20, or like, I've known him for 5, and I'm not gonna, if I fucking deviate even a little bit, I don't think I have any faith that he'll give me forgiveness. So if I ever do deviate, I'm just gonna try to kill him as much as I possibly can, because I know I'm dead. So there's this idea that there's too much cruelty and too much correction can be bad. So ultimately, and this is the first time I've ever heard this, but this to me this nailed it. This sounds perfect in terms of like an understanding of the violence that was required back then, with the understanding of what the net result had to be, maybe with various degrees of severity. With what you could take this lesson into the future essentially, but the question is it better? And the question is genuinely being asked: is it better to be feared or loved? And I think they make a good argument for in the show that it's not about, and this is what Soma has to kind of contend with as well. It's not about being good or bad. It's about, if you are going to be bad, you are going to have to make a correction. Because if you don't make a correction, then people lose faith. The rules mean nothing, and people will start to walk over you. So you need to make a very clear, honest, one time, but make it super severe so that people know never ever to do it again. So make one correction once and make it memorable and make it so that it's not forgettable. Make sure it lasts, but then never do it again. Because if you do it properly the first time, quick, honest, unfortunately excessive, then it will never have to be done again, because the lesson will be lasting. The lesson won't just be like a slap on the wrist and people will be like, well, fuck it, I can get away with that. I can handle like a little bit of an ow and move and do it again, The punishment has to be meaningful enough to where the person says, this ain't worth it. This is not worth it. Like if this goes through, we're dead. And that's what the Soma kind of has to do. And it's a moment where like the show for the first time gets pretty damn dark, when for the longest time it was remaining to be very, very clean. Like you didn't have to put a rating on the show at all. You could let it be seen by kids, and it would actually be a very helpful like lesson in humanity. But there was this one moment where the author's like, no, this is still like a show about kingdoms, corruption, and war. So of course all of these nobles who sided with corruption, and all of them, it's funny because all of them were siding with Soma. So all of them were like, yes, Soma should do whatever he believes, or yes, Soma should kill the heretic that betrayed us. Meanwhile, they all participated in corruption, and the only ones that stood up for the one guy were the people who he saved. And again, the moment where he like just gets them all to be cut down, and he sits there kind of like again, and it's funny because they mention this with his harem people, of course, but they mention the idea that he was like playing a character, like he was playing this like, I'm not a cruel or like a vengeful person, like I want to just wipe it away, but I know deep down in my heart that more suffering will become if I am this way. Like I'll be a monster. I'll pretend to don the mask of a monster, if only for a moment, and then throw it away. But I'll make sure I never have to put it on again. Mind you, I'll still be like, tainted with the fact that I did this horrible thing, but at least this maybe will make it so that I don't have to do it for a long time coming. And I don't know, to me, I thought that was really interesting. Like, it was a breakdown of the philosophy of a person, of a wonderful philosopher, and then it was an inference of what the philosopher was trying to teach the viewer. And to me, that deduction of what the philosopher's writings kind of meant, to me, was a really sound and at the very least compelling perspective of what the philosopher was writing about. Like, if you have to be cruel in a meaningful way, because you don't want to have to do it again. But it doesn't all, again, I think this is like varying severity based on the future. So I feel like at that time, nobles would literally just hire people and like kill people and sell people, and slavery was abound, all this horrible shit. So now in our world, where a lot of that is chill, we're not fucking on cloud nine, at least in certain countries. Now it's just various parts of severity, and the same thing I think could be applied to maybe kids. It's like, it's not about like, you don't want to beat the shit out of your kid or something horrible, but I think it's important to make sure whatever lesson you put forth, you need. And I personally feel this from my childhood. It's not that my parents were in any way forceful. But it was like there was a moment where you realized that there was a consequence to you being not good or not listening. It wasn't like you're gonna get your head kicked in or something horrible, but it was like no, this is not acceptable. There'll be punishments, whether it's a slap on the bum or you not being able to do certain things, like you not being able to play games, or you not being able to do XYZ, or you feeling like your parents mad for you more than 2 minutes instead for like maybe 4 hours, and then you're like, okay, this is pretty horrible, I won't do it again. But then you never had to make that course correction because you're in your brain, you're like, that was not good. That was super something I should have avoided, and you continue to avoid it. But if it was something that was just over and done with in a split second, I feel like the lesson wouldn't be there. Now, granted, again, this is something they talk about in the same episode, but if you overcorrect and you are too merciless, then people will just, and this I've seen this in other examples of friends I've had where like their childhood is a trauma point to them because there was way too much correction, there was way too much aggression, there was way too many this stuff, and they have genuine like scars and fear and like hatred and frustration and negative emotion towards their person that was supposed to be guiding them and they were supposed to be trusting it. But that was by far my favorite part of the whole season. I wonder what your guys' favorite part is, because to me, I don't know, man. Maybe I usually do try to give myself like a breaking point between making these so I can like reflect. But I'm very much, you can tell, I'm in the heyday of me enjoying the show. But it's so good. And to me, it makes me sad a little bit when I usually don't like to see stuff like that. Like I don't like to see the rating of shows, but to see that this show was given a 7 point something, it was an 8 point something, and now it was a 7 point something on season 2. I think season 2 is way better than season 1. But then also, I told you guys, I don't really like the conflict stuff. It's not that I don't like conflict stuff. I just don't like to see conflict I've seen 1,000 times. Whereas the idea of like these new perspectives, again, like even the weird stuff with harem stuff, was a new perspective I've never seen with like actually challenged. Like this idea of, well, if you were gonna have multiple wives, what the fuck is even that? Like this existed without time. How the hell do you do that? And there's this weird like course where like you're like with a bunch of other wives, and it just seems weird. But also, I think that's a reference to like other like kingship shit. But even hearing about that idea and that kind of conflict within it, of course, they harmonize it more with like less about like just dealing with the jealousy and more about like, I put him under hypnosis and he just loves the shit out of you, and not one of his wives is he like, it was an arranged thing. I actually don't care for them very much, So yeah, the show it airs on harmony more than discourse, which I very much value. I appreciate a lot of it. But I love to hear what you guys think about it. I always like hearing what you guys think about it. A lot of you guys usually, especially with this show, I think the only thing that I think could happen with people not liking it is some people could think it's boring because it doesn't do that discourse thing. It doesn't do that tries to get like a reaction or tries to do something appalling or salacious to try to get you like, oh my god, how could they? I wasn't expecting a person to get sliced in half. And you're like, are you okay? What happened? Why is that like, ooh, what's going on? Anyway, sorry. But no, I think this show is one of the ones I could binge to bits, and this would be a show I would literally take. You know how like some anime goes on like episode 200? I would take this show all the way up to where he's making like a kingdom that's like because this show does what like Reincarnate as a Slime does, except very slower and way more about that process, less about the zero to hero thing and more about economic development and communal development. And I want to see every step of the way, and that's why I'm so happy that I looked this up, and apparently this anime is very, very akin to the source material. It goes at the same pace. It doesn't skip things. It doesn't kind of extrapolate on things. It literally goes like book to book, piece by piece. I hope it stays that way because I would love to see more of this show because it is that bingeable. It's like Friends or something. It's like, or The Office. There's not too much conflict. It just hits and it's just cozy. I think I'm gonna watch a show yearly. It's that good. Also, I hope it continues to do that thing where the main character Soma like uses philosophy as like a leverage point to express how he's perceiving his actions and how he's doing the things he's doing and why he's doing those things. Also, when he goes into tangents about like expressing mythos, and just so many things which are brilliant. Like the idea that he's expressing these like stories of mythos, these grand tales to express the pitfalls within your choices. It makes it so that you're not like going after the person for making a stupid choice, but instead like letting them see a story and letting it seem like, oh, I could actually understand how that story could be true, and then being like, well, this story is very similar to what your declaration of peace is. It actually has a pitfall, and that's why I'm not buying into it. But you should go, you can do whatever you want, but this is why I'm worried about it. And then them being like, oh, like, okay. But it's also like they had to convince themselves, and that's why storytelling and mythos is so powerful, because it's able to translate the emotions, the logic, the experience of others, same situation. This show is brilliant, ladies and gentlemen. I would highly suggest it. I hate making 50-minute videos because it's fucking egregious and intimidating as hell. It's more like a podcast. But thank you so much for listening to me. Hopefully enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know if you watch the show. And if you haven't, I would suggest it, man. If you get bored by it, then it's not for you. But for me, it was an absolute banger. And it's also just so damn charming. And like, so it delivers for me. I feed on that harmony, man. I need that, especially with these years. That harmony and peace of mind is what I desperately crave and I need. So keep giving it to me. Please make a renewal of for season 3. Give me 5 seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for your time. Hope I can see you again. Consider subscribing to the channel, and we will make more of these consistently because we're going through like a little anime craze. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.